In this episode, we find a giant pile of parts in front of the AMG, including brand new brakes, and we find out how bad doing a brake job really stinks.
Yo.
Okay, we're going to put the brakes back together and put a little bit of anti-seize on this hub for the next guy. I wish they'd done it for us.
That's generous.
Can I have the Allen key, please? Oh, look at that service.
Right where you wanted it?
Yeah. Thanks.
I'm putting the new parts in, eh?
Yep. Oh yeah, that stuff's strong.
Paint?
Huh?
The paint or the Loctite?
Oh, it's paint. It's paint.
Yeah, should blow right through here though. I think I just need to use this drill for a second to clean off the rust, and then I can put some lock seed or another seed on mine too.
Holy, you're lapping me.
Yeah.
What are you painting?
Nothing, brake clean.
Oh.
So get his rust off this hub a bit better. That's how you get a concourse car done. Oh yeah, there we go. You have the Mercedes already now?
Yeah, it's weird.
That's the opposite. That's a lot.
Oh, sorry. Always sees.
Yeah.
Slap some of that on, you'll be good to go.
Yeah. Next guy'll freaking love us. Boy, we're too nice to all these next guys all the time. They never do us any favors.
Alright, we're going to put the brake pads in and put a little bit of synthetic brake and caliper grease on there. So it'll put it along the sides here and help it slide in and out, and then along the back where it meets the piston so it doesn't rattle or anything like that. Oh yeah, that's strong stuff. I can't believe you whiffed that.
I don't know what I was thinking.
It's not like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's like drywall compound, almost.
Drywall compound wrapped up in an old used condom or something. I thought I smelled some like burnt rubber too. Like the other kind of rubber, like tire rubber.
The old semen smell. Alright, get in there. Oh.
you must have stole the caliper bolt socket, eh?
I did, you can have it. I'm done with it. Wherever it is. Oh, it's right here. Oh!
Oh, I forgot Loctite.
And we'll put our spring in. Our pins. Through the back, not the front. Get started. Then what, you just tap them in?
Yep, tap them into the flush. You'll hear the difference when they're tight. You want the nice hammer?
Yes, please. Uh-oh.
That one works really good.
Sweet. So we'll torque these rotor bolts to 133 foot-pounds. How did you get in here? Like this?
Yeah, underneath, yeah. I had to use the extension on the bottom when I kind of go push the brake line out of the way a little bit. Like push the brake line towards me to get behind it.
Oh,
It wasn't that bad. You can only get a few clicks at a time, but if you already have it kind of tightened, it's not bad.
let's readjust the camera so you just don't see my hairy arm.
The guns. Show the guns ablazing.
The hairy guns?
Huh.
Huh. All right. And we'll throw the fender back in. I think that's it.
Hey guys, so we're going to be changing the rotors and pads on the front of the CL55 here. This is of course the AMG model, and if you look at the back of the caliper housing, you'll actually see that these brakes are made by Brembo. So these are what's referred to as a fixed caliper. Traditional lower end cars and cheaper economy cars have a sliding caliper where you have one bracket mounted to the back of the spindle here, and then two slide pins, and the caliper has one piston on one end, and when the when the brake pedal is pushed, the piston comes out, the whole assembly slides on the pins, and as it slides, it pulls the back of the bracket over and then squishes and sandwiches the rotor disc. Whereas with fixed, you're bolted right to it. This is one assembly, and you'll have two pistons here, two here, two here, and two here on ours. So there's actually 8 separate pistons. These are really nice to work on. If you guys haven't come across one of these, all you do to change the pads is just pull these 2 pins out. sorry, first you got to remove the wear sensor because it's in the way of this top pin, but you take the wear sensor off, pull these two pins out, these two spring brackets pop out, and then you basically just yank your pads out and put new ones in. But we got to take this a step further because we have to also remove this. We're going to do a cleaning on it, and then we'll have to take this off, of course, to get this rotor off. So I'll start with removing the wear sensor here, and it's actually a reverse Torx type bolt, but the 6.8 millimeter socket fits very well on it, and it won't strip it out. It's a pretty good fit, but it is actually not the correct tool, but we find it works just fine. I don't have that tool yet. Oops. So these just are bolted in with one bolt, and it's actually recommended that you replace this wear sensor. They're really inexpensive, and it's well worth at least having a new one on hand in case you break this one pulling it out. But it's just a friction fit down inside here, so I just use a pair of bent needle nose. You could probably use a straight screwdriver or normal needle nose, but I grab underneath the sensor body and I pull up on it, and it just pulls straight out. Make sure you don't bend it. If you have a look at it, it just looks like a pin, and that pin fits inside the brake pad. There's a hole in each of the four, or each of the four pads in the same corner, so it doesn't matter which one you end up with up in the top corner. This fitting hole for the sensor is there. So we'll show you that in more detail on a new pad. This is kind of dark and dungy in here to have a look, but I'm just going to move this sensor out of the way here. Tuck it in the back to get it out of our way for a minute. And the pins, I use a nice flat round punch. It fits good on the end of the pin, and a little hammer. Once you get the pin that far, it's pretty easy to push down on the spring clamp, and then you can just pull it out by hand. You can buy new hardware for these too, but we found they were, I believe, what was it, about 50 bucks a corner. And if there's nothing wrong with these pins, there's no point in replacing them with new ones. They don't slide, they don't do anything. So as long as they're not corroded to the point where they won't come out on you, I would say just go ahead and reuse them. Once you're this far, your brakes are in a position ready to be used. So they're like, you know, a millimeter away from the disc probably. Like they're tight right now. And in order to get these out of here and to be able to put new ones in too, we're gonna have to push the pistons back into their bores. So you can use something to pry between the pad and the disc if you're not worried about destroying or possibly scratching your rotor. We're replacing them, so we could do that, but what I found is these inexpensive little brake caliper spreaders. I think I got these at Princess Auto, Harbor Freight, or anybody will have them. We could probably put a link below for Amazon to get a set of these if you like. They're really inexpensive, but I just put them between the ears on the two opposing pads like this, and crank it to spread it apart, and it'll simultaneously push in the pistons on each side. And all you really need at this point is to give yourself enough room to get these out of here. We can fully retract the pistons later when the pads are completely out of our way. You want to be careful you don't mar up the coating on these calipers too. I've heard that even brake fluid is not good for this coating, so what we use, just discovered recently, is Chemical Guy's Red Devil, it's called, isn't it? It's actually a wheel cleaner. Matt will grab the bottle here in a bit and we can show you guys what it looks like, but it dilutes 3:1 and then you put it in a spray bottle and spray it on, and it works really good for taking brake dust off wheels, but it also works really well on these calipers as well, and it seems to leave a nice shiny not shiny, but it seems to leave a protective coating on there like it does for wheels. So did you find it? Yeah, it's this stuff here. Diablo Gel Wheel Cleaner by Chemical Guys. We can throw a link down below for you guys. You can get this just about anywhere though. So our pads are down to about half of the original thickness here. They're getting fairly worn. And yeah, it's hard to see, but that's the hole there where the sensor was. I don't know if you can see it on this dirty pad. We'll grab a clean one here in a minute and show you. No, I didn't spread these ones yet. Speaking of watching the finish on these brackets, every one of them on this car, I don't know if you want to show the guys the top of this bracket here, Matt, but every one on this car has this coating worn off here. 3 guesses what that is. That's a guy taking the lug nuts out of the wheel and sliding the wheel off on top of the caliper. It takes this coating off immediately, so don't do that.
This?
Yeah, thank you. A little more power. There we go. Okay, we've already cleaned the outside of this as best we could within place so that it's held in place. At this point, what I like doing is spraying out the inside with the wheel cleaner and using a toothbrush to clean out the inside of this, because you're gonna have to clean out these slide areas where the pads slide back and forth. I like to clean off the piston surfaces and then fully retract the pistons back into their bores with this while it's in here against the rotor. And once that's all retracted and cleaned, then we'll remove it and then we can clean the back side, and at that point we'll take the rotor off. So I won't bore you guys with the cleaning part. I'll take care of that and then we'll come back. Yeah, so I had to use a breaker bar to loosen the 2 bolts off on the back. They're 21mm bolts. There's 2 of them back here. Can hardly show you guys, but they're back there. I'll yank those out, and then what we'll do is we'll take the caliper off and support it from the bracket with a zip tie. You could use something like baling wire or something too, but I don't like doing that because you could mark up the paint pretty easily. So I usually use a big zip tie, and that way it's not going to damage the paint. So I'll go ahead and get that out of the way, and I'll get you guys back in here after. Alright, now we've got the caliper up out of the way. We can take the retainer screw out of here. It's T30 Torx, and that'll let us remove the rotor. Oof. Of course it's stuck, so I'll go grab a hammer. Don't listen to what they tell you. You can never have too big of a hammer. There we go. So these like to kind of rust on around here, so what I'm going to do is run a wire wheel around this edge here and apply a little anti-seize in there while I'm at it, so the next guy doesn't have to run for the big hammer. I'm also going to take some spray and just clean out in here while I'm at it, and the inner surfaces of the rotor here while that's accessible, as well as all these retainers and these pins. I'm going to run all those over the wire wheel and clean them up a bit. So yeah, I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll bring you back in when it's a little shinier under here. Alright, so we've got that cleaned up pretty good here. So our next step is going to be to put a little bit of anti-seize. So we'll just brush that up right in this little crevice where the rotor seats on here. I like to put the screw at the top so it's easy to find it. Incidentally, you do not have to clean the coating off these rotors. It specifically says not to. So we obviously just need to make sure we don't get any grease on there, on the friction surface. We'll just get our hand in behind here, turn this to get the screw to line up properly. And this did come with a new screw, so I'm going to use the new one, which incidentally is not a Torx, it's an Allen. So, but that's all right. There's a new one on the other side too, so they might as well match, I guess. I'm going to put just a little dab of blue thread locker on. Get the Allen key out. Man, these are some heavy rotors. Come on, almost a two-people job getting these things in. There we go. All right. Okay, there we are. Nice shiny new rotor on there. So our next step is going to be to bolt the caliper back on here. I did notice that some of my pistons aren't retracted all the way anymore, so I'm just going to get the spreader tool in there and crank those back open. I think probably when we were messing around with the car earlier, we hit the brake by accident. Retract, and these pushed out a bit, so I'm going to have to just retract them back in. This makes the job of putting the pads in so much easier if you have them all the way retracted. Okay, so now we'll cut the tire up, and then we can get the two 21mm bolts back into the back. Oh, blue thread locker on those as well. Since Mr. Benz was kind enough to put it on there in the first place for us, I guess we can do him a solid and put it back. All right. One bolt. Okay, so I just did those really loose right now so I can give this another final wipe down, and I'll look up the torque specs and I'll post those up in a second here. Alright, so torque on these two back 21mm bolts is a surprising 133 foot-pounds, which is 180 Newton meters, but it's quite a bit of torque on these guys, so we'll get those torqued in. Alright, there we go. I think I pointed this out once before, but see this here? Missing paint on top of the caliper? That's from taking the wheels off and taking the lugs out of the wheels and just grabbing them, pulling and letting them drop onto the caliper. Scuffs the paint off here. Really disappointing to see that. It's so avoidable. Yeah, that's just being careless in my opinion. So easy to avoid that. They actually sell a nice little stud that you screw into these, and it's just a stud. So when you take a wheel lug out, you put that in there, then you take the rest out. What that does is give you a pin to slide the wheel off on, so it doesn't drop till you're out past the caliper. Thinking about getting myself a set of those actually. That would help accidentally dropping the rim as well. So it'd be nice little security feature to have. Alright, so we're bolted in there. The next step is to slide the pads in. So I'll get those prepped out and show you what that is like. I'll lay them out here and then we can take a look at them. Alright, now that we're back to basically square one, where you'd walk on the scene if you were just doing pads and you're ready to install the new ones, this is where you'd be. So we've got two new pairs of pads. We've got the retainer clips, which cleaned up. I just cleaned up the old ones with the wire wheel and the wire brush. Same with these pins. If they get too pitted or corroded on you, you can buy new hardware sets. They're quite pricey. I think they're $50 per wheel when I looked, so I was inclined to try cleaning up, and they cleaned up just great. The thing on these front ones here, on the front right hand side, this particular car has a wear sensor here. So there's a little stud here that goes into the top left hand pad. You can see a hole in the pad there. Right, it's going to show up too well on camera, but it's right there. There's a little hole. That's where this little pin goes in. So you can imagine it stuck in the top of the pad there like this. And then there's a bolt that attaches at the holder here for this for the cable assembly where the little sensor comes out. So that'll get bolted in after. On my pads, it didn't seem to matter which pad I picked. They were all drilled out with the hole, so you know this pad will have a useless hole at the bottom, but it's still there, so you don't have to be too picky about which place you put the pad in. But in case yours doesn't, just make sure that the one with the hole goes there if only one of them has a hole. The only other thing to note is these, when they're installed, will of course slide back and forth to release and apply friction. So what is recommended is to put some caliper grease on the surfaces that slide. So if you're looking at the caliper, that's of course the positions where these make contact. So it's this surface here, and correspondingly here, up here, and up here. So to grease these, I will put a little bit of grease along these edges, both edges on all four of them. And then they recommend, to keep them from vibrating or rattling, to also put it where these calipers, where the pistons meet the pad. So an easy way to do that is to keep your old one, and then you can have a look and you can see, hope that shows up. Yep, there you go. you can see the outline here where the pistons were, so you can sort of mimic that area on these rather than just, you know, slush and goop all over them. But basically it's here and here. Oops, sorry. It's here and here on all 4 pads. That's where you want to apply some anti-seize. So that'll be our next step. And if you guys have not yet had the pleasure of using this stuff, this is made by CRC. It's synthetic braking caliper grease, but the first time I used this, oh man, like I could smell something weird when I was applying this, and I thought, oh, is it this stuff? Can't be. So I took a nice big whiff of this. Oh geez, if you have not smelled this stuff yet, this would be a great trick for the apprentices too, I gotta say. It is the worst smelling stuff I have encountered in the shop to date that I can think of. It's you'll there's involuntary gag reflex stuff going on when you take a big whiff of this. It's like changing a big green baby diaper, or dropping the fluid out of a rear end, putting it in a crack pipe and lighting it on fire and seeing what that would smell like. Oh, it's just, save this for the apprentice trick. It's well worth a good laugh, I assure you. So what you want to do then is just put the tiniest amount on those surfaces we talked about before. Make sure you don't put too much. And make absolutely sure that you don't put any on the friction surfaces, because, well, that would be a very bad day. Really doesn't take much, just a little bit. Little bit'll do ya. And then on the flat surfaces. Just like that. All right. Then again, making sure we have our hole at the top left position. Just slide these guys in. Now seat in there. Okay, that's the top. To wipe off any extra, where it's not needed. The brakes weren't really in too bad a shape on this car, except for the rotors. They didn't have a lip, but they were worn sort of funny in a rounded shape. They didn't seem to wear quite evenly, and I'm not exactly sure why that is, but I figured we'd just freshen up the works. So this car actually got brand new rotors and pads, front and back, and then the next thing we're going to do after that still is we're also going to bleed the fluid out and flush it and put brand new fluid in. So that'll be coming up on one of the next couple of videos, because we've got to do that before we put the tires back on, so that should be coming up fairly soon. And one more. I just try to avoid grabbing the friction surface at all, because it's really hard to clean that stuff, and you can't just spray stuff on it. Best just avoid touching it altogether. And then these are the retainer clips. So what happens with these is it's actually these pins that hold everything in. And the clip has a the pin has an indented portion here, It's a smaller diameter here, and that's what rests on the clip there when it's installed, so it doesn't slide out on its own. As well as this little bushing here keeps it pressed in too. But this is how they'll sit when they're actually in. So to do these, all you do is lay this across the pads. Start with the pin at the back on the inside, not the outer, but start from the inner. Slide it through, and when you get this far, you'll want to if I get a little bit better there for you. You want to push down on the clip, and then you can see the tip of the pin lines up with the hole. Push it till it's just starting to engage. Then take your hammer and you just tap it till it's seated. See how the sound changes there? And then what I like to do is make sure the clip is centered properly on the pin. And there you have it. I'll see if I can come a little bit closer for you on the next one so you can see a little bit better. Alright, so again, the clip goes on across both pads. So it pushes on the pads. You can see there's actually indentations here, 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 and here on the pads. That's where the retainer clip rides. And then again, pin from the inboard side. Push down on the clip a little bit if you want to make it easier until it just starts to engage. And tap it in. There, seated. This one's actually already centered. And that's what it looks like all installed. And the only thing we have left to do is the little, wow, why is it so tight? Oh boy, I actually messed this up. Can you spot it? This pad here has the hole closer to the backing for the brake shoe, and that's the brake pad, and that's where this has to clip in. So this other hole isn't going to work for me. It's too far away. So I'm going to have to take this pin out, reverse these two pads, and then I'll be able to put that pin in there. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, and you can see here the difference. See how close that hole is to the backing? It's right there. That's strange. I never noticed that before. I don't know why the hole would be in a different spot on the other pad. I don't know if they use them for multiple types of vehicles maybe. So on this one, the hole is right at the edge of the pad there, so that's not going to allow my wear sensor to clip in there. Plus it would show wear way too soon, so I don't know why that's like that. It got me. Alright, so if we test this now, we should be able to see that this wear sensor, it's supposed to slide into that groove there, and the tip of the sensor goes in there. So when you slide it in, it seats like that. So yeah, definitely in the wrong spot. And then this bolt seats on here. Once the pin's in out of the way, the bolt will go in here. I gotta knock the pin in first. There we go. And we get to put the wear sensor in one more time. And the bolt. Okay. No, wrong one. That's an 8mm. I gotta go get the right tool. Right, so there we have it, guys. The wear center is bolted in. 8 Newton meters, which is roughly 5 foot-pounds. Make sure these wires aren't squished in there so that they rub on the rotor, because the rotor is right there spinning, of course. Other than that, yeah, at this point you just bleed your brakes, but we're going to do that later because we're going to change all the fluid out. Of note, there are 2 bleeders on these because they're split, right? So there's actually pistons here and here. It's not a floating type caliper where you'd only have bleeding and pistons on one side and the other side of the caliper slides. So 2 of them to bleed. Yeah, so that's it for today. Thanks again for watching.